Aboriginal peoples have long known that a mix of crops is a really good thing, and there's what's called the three sisters, which is corn, beans, and squash. What I'm holding in my hand here has an incredible amount of life in it. And there are more than 6 billion living organisms in one handful of soil.
Now that's what I call a beet. Hi, I'm Coleen and welcome to Vitality Gardening. We're going to be heading up to northern Manitoba, where we'll be gathering a wild plant that's been used as a skin remedy. But we're kicking things off out on the west coast of Canada, where we went to talk to Christine Pollard, a certified gardening therapist. It's midsummer, and this is Cowichan Bay near Duncan, British Columbia. This is an area of Canada that enjoys a long growing season. In fact, everywhere you go here, you see gardens or plants brimming with life. We're here to find out how planting seeds and growing things can make you feel better.
Finally.
Hello.
Isn't that great? Nice to meet you,
Yes, nice to
Coleen.
meet you. Come on out.
Great.
This is so cute. This is your office?
Yeah, this
right
is
here?
the garden shed office. It's very appropriate.
No, it is just beautiful. And this is actually one of the oldest properties in Duncan, British Columbia?
Yeah, one of the oldest homes. Instead of making a parking lot, the Green Door Society decided to renovate it and to make a historic building.
And this used to be the...
This is the historic garden shed.
Oh, well, it's so cute. I want one now. You going to show me around?
Sure.
Okay. So, Christine, can you explain to us what is gardening therapy? And let me tell you, just walking through here in this beautiful little space makes me feel like I want to spill my guts to you.
Well, there's two kinds of gardening therapy. There's what I call horticultural therapy, but there's also therapeutic horticulture. As a horticultural therapist, I will be interested in what your goals and objectives are as an individual. Maybe how do you want to grow and develop in your life, or overcome possible barriers that you've experienced in your life. And I will take those goals and objectives, and I will intentionally create horticultural activities that will attend to those goals and objectives. Therapeutic horticulture is what I do myself in my own garden. I'll go home, I've had maybe a stressful day at work, and I'll go in my garden and I'll start to weed, or I'll start to rake, or I'll think about what I'm going to plant maybe the next season. And that allows my mind to rest. You know those little activities, even washing the dishes, where you have some, like weeding, you weed away, you get to process your thoughts, you get to put the world back into perspective in your garden. So it works in two ways.
Exactly. And I've recently found that out because I planted my first garden this past spring, and now I find that just going in and picking a few weeds, and you're not in a rush, and instead of going to, say, veg out and watch some mindless TV, of course Vitality's not included in that category, I'm now out in my garden, and people stop by and they talk to me, and it's just a completely different world, and it is very stress relieving. So Christine was telling me that when she works with someone, you actually head out to the garden and you work on it together and just chat. Can you just explain to us how that goes?
Yeah. Well, first of all, when someone does approach me and is interested in making changes in their life, my tool is the garden. And so we'll start working in the garden, but I try and make that garden centered around what that person's interests and goals would be. You're only going to go in a garden if you're interested in it. So how can I lure that person into the garden with something they're interested in? And then once we're there, mostly what the hort therapy part is about, it's about us taking responsibility for ourselves. So if I want to make changes, then I have to be responsible for that. I have to be responsible for those particular steps that are going to lead me there. And if you can take responsibility in a garden for a plant and plant that seed, then right away you're investing in your future. You plant the seed, you're going to be around to see what happens to the seed. The same way when you're making changes in your life is you take that one step and then you follow your nose and you go from there. So there's a lot of symbolism in the garden. It's also just a very easy place to be. If we were sitting across a desk from each other, we're both tense, our hands are sweating, we're wondering what the question is going to be next, we feel like we're put on the spot. But in a garden, everything's really friendly. I mean, who doesn't love a gardener?
Exactly, exactly. And what sort of reactions have you had when someone comes to you and maybe expects to lie down on a psychiatrist's couch and be assessed, and instead you just take them out to the garden and say, no, you know, let's just have a chat?
No, instead I say, here's your clippers, here's your gloves, let's go and garden.
Oh, well, see, there you go. And then
yeah, usually surprised, but pleasantly surprised. Very pleasantly surprised.
And can you explain to us what sort of things do people come to you for help with?
There isn't anybody that can't benefit from working in the garden, as we know from our own therapeutic horticulture. My experience has been mostly mental health. However, seniors really benefit from being in the garden as well. A lot of seniors feel, and I'm going to be one pretty soon, is that once I get a certain age, I can't garden anymore. What gardening can do for our seniors is maintain our physical health, maintain our mental health, maintain our social health. So you can maintain your health and prevent deterioration working in a garden if you're a senior. If you're a child or youth, you can learn new skills, you can learn the mastery and competencies of skills, and that gives you the confidence to try and learn more in your life. It makes you that confident individual that can accomplish something. It can also replace maybe negative behavior with positive behavior. And that's what I like about it. It's a therapeutic tool. You don't feel like you're getting therapy, you just feel like you're gardening. In order to go into therapy, lots of folks think, well, if I go into therapy, then I'm admitting there's something wrong. And it's very hard for humans to do that sometimes.
Definitely.
But when you just go and garden, that's a whole different cup of tea, isn't it?
Exactly.
Again, it's just really gentle. And it's actually quite disturbing how many of our young people don't know where their food comes from. If it's not wrapped in plastic and arrives on styrofoam, it's not food. And to see children grow their first pepper and recognize it as a pepper, as something they've seen before, just understanding where it comes from. What I particularly like it about gardening is that you don't need a lot of money either. A packet of seeds and a little piece of ground, and you can start growing your own food. And that's incredibly satisfying, knowing that when push comes to shove, you can actually feed yourself. That gives you a great sense of independence.
Now, I'm just wondering, with gardening therapy, how common is that in North America?
Well, it's becoming more and more common. I've mentioned that we're using it already in Canada in our prison system. We're certainly seeing far more children's gardens within our educational system. We're seeing more and more therapeutic gardens in our extended cares and our complex care systems. And not just for the residents, but also for the staff. Education and health are pretty stressful jobs, and the staff and educators are enjoying the gardens as well. Vancouver Island University has the first and only hort therapy diploma in Canada.
Which Christine teaches.
Which I'm the instructor. We had our first 3 graduates last year. We're going to have 5 more next year, so it's coming. And now that employers know that there's formal education in hort therapy, you're going to see more and more nonprofit organizations and government agencies asking for horticultural therapists.
And why do you think it's so important for not only for people that want therapy to work through something, but just in general, gardening for our communities?
Oh, well, every day we read the paper, gas prices, oil prices, the cost of food going up. Canada, we have so many resources here in our own country. Sometimes in different parts of the country the weather's not good, but you know, you can grow a lot of
Don't
food.
pick on Winnipeg.
On a 5-foot by 25-foot plot, you can grow enough food to feed a family of 4 for a year. So A, you're feeding yourself, you're less dependent on outside influences if you can grow your own food. And nutritionally, the value of our food, just what you pull out of the ground is far more nutritious than what you're going to buy at the supermarket.
Definitely.
So yeah, there's lots of good reasons to garden, and you get to share it with your family and friends as well.
Christine says for some First Nations people, Gardening brings back bad memories, and she understands why.
I believe in some of the residential school situations, the residents there were forced to work in the garden. So it wasn't seen as a pleasure, it was seen as work, it was seen as punishment. And so hopefully one day we'll get back to the garden and realize the joys.
All right, well, thank you. And that's
Thank
what we're
you.
going to be doing, taking in more gardens here on Vancouver Island on Canada's west coast.
You don't necessarily need a therapist to enjoy some of the benefits. Spiritual restoration, peace, and tranquility can be enjoyed simply by gardening with a friend or loved one, or even enjoying the sky and a breeze on your face. So next time you're outside or in the garden, enjoy a heaping helping of good natural medicine. Coming up next, cactus care. Tips you need to know if you want your cacti to flourish.
Welcome back. We're here at St. Mary's Nursery just on the edge of Winnipeg, and joining me again for some great plant care tips is Carla
Hersenna.
I always have a problem with that.
That's okay.
But today we are talking about cacti care, and I have 2 cacti at home, and I was just telling you that recently one of the stalks just kind of went, fell over,
Okay.
and I blamed it on my husband, of course, for adding regular soil into the pot. Was that the cause of that?
Well, there's a couple things that could have been caused by collapse of cactus. It depends on it's different types. They're also prone to disease. You can get a fungal spot that causes it to collapse. Sometimes we transplant plants into new soils that have more moisture holding capabilities than it is to have better drainage. So too soggy of soil will also cause stems of cactus to collapse and rot, so you'll see the plant that collapses over. So that's another indicator that there may be some problems there. So what you're looking at is proper watering again, very high light situation that's on it, and again you need something that's going to be able to carry that space and height for the plant to grow that large.
So if you bought a cactus and you took it home, how should you care for it?
Well, like most plants, I think we've talked about that before in other cares, is most plants don't like having too large of a pot in proportion to what they are. They'll actually like to be a little bit to the point where they're, I'd like to say, gently snugged roots that are on there. And when we do have to increase in the size of pot that we have for our containers, optimally you want to go 1 or 2 inches bigger in the size of the pot when transplanting. And definitely the type of soil that you're planting with is important to what you're wanting to transplant. So with cactus, you want to remember that they grow in very arid areas where they get water for a short period of time and then there's no water source. So their soil has to be well drained, and a heavier soil which actually is more sand-based than soil-based.
That makes sense because they come from desert.
They come from the desert.
Desert areas. So then adding regular potting soil into a cactus when you transplant it to a bigger pot is not a good idea.
It's, you know what, it's not a good idea, or if that's the only type of soil that you have, then try and improve the porosity, which is the draining qualities of it, by putting in some sand and some perlite, which helps to quicken the drainage of it so that the roots dry out quicker.
Okay, and what is perlite?
Perlite is it's a natural element. It's almost like a pumice type like volcanic rock, and it's the small granules that we add to our growing mediums, so it helps to improve porosity, which helps with better drainage.
So kind of like little stones.
Yeah, little stones, and it'll help with the drainage of it, and that's important, especially with cacti.
Okay, so now in terms of watering a cactus, how often do you need to water a cactus at home?
It depends on the size of the pot, the maturity of the plant, but normally with cactus in through here, we like to see that it goes completely bone dry in the growing mix that we have them into. So some of our smaller cactuses that we have in through here, that we may be watering them once a week because we like them to go really dry. Some of the larger cactuses that we have that you may be able to see probably once a month.
Once a month?
Once a month.
Okay. Now that would maybe explain why my cactus collapsed, because if I felt even the top of the soil that it was a little bit dry, I went and got a big jug of water and I just poured it all around.
No, what we want to do is have good drainage. So if we feel the top of the soil and it feels dry, if you gently scrape away some of the soil and you feel moisture down below, that's a clear indicator that it hasn't dried out completely all the way through. So limit or wait until you do the next watering step.
Exactly. Okay, and if you just want to tell us the different types of cactuses that you have here, cacti.
All the different names that are on. This one is a really kind of neat one. This one's called Old Man Cactus. It's got the bearded casing that's over top of it.
I actually thought that was a cover on him.
No, it's to keep them insulated. It actually deters. Sometimes these two are telling you to stay away. It's preventing itself and it's preventing insects from going into those areas. And this is an interesting one that's in through here. These are nice novelty type cacti. It's actually a cactus that has been grafted to another form of cacti underneath. A little bit slightly novel idea. Just in final aspects, just monitor your watering. Be careful how much water you give them and give them as much bright light as you can.
All right, well thank you. Great
You're
tips
welcome.
again. Now I won't kill any more cactus either.
Next on Vitality Gardening, do you have dry skin or eczema? Well, we have a recipe for a soothing salve. Welcome back. We're with Caroline Chartrand in Winnipeg. She's a Métis gardener, and you could say that plants are her passion.
Hi, my name's Caroline, and today I'm going to be demonstrating how to make a salve that's good for sunburns, rashes, minor cuts, and scrapes. We'll be using comfrey, calendula, and thyme that I picked from the garden. And a double boiler is necessary, and so this is my homemade version of a double boiler, is just by putting one pot inside the other. I'm using thyme because thyme, it has antibacterial properties and it's really good for preventing infection from setting in. You wouldn't want to use this cream if it is infected. There's different ways that you can use the calendula, for example. I harvested some from the garden, and one way of doing it is to use the petals fresh. Pluck off the petals. The inside part of the flower is not required for this recipe. Okay, so we have fresh petals ready. We have dried petals that have been soaking for several weeks. And next thing I need to do is to wash the leaves. They only really need to be rinsed in water in case there's any dust or debris on them. So I'll do that now. And chop them up.
The next step is to add 1 tablespoon of chopped comfrey, the same amount of calendula,
And again, exact amounts are not really necessary.
add 1 tablespoon of chopped thyme, and 1 cup of olive oil.
Everything's ready to start heating up. Okay, so now we need to add the water to the pot, to the bottom pot. And you want just enough water to heat up the oil without it overflowing into the oil. You don't want water in the oil. And so that looks like a perfect amount. So I can turn on my boiler, my hot plate, and I'm gonna heat up the water until it's boiling. And then we don't want the oil to actually be at a full rolling boil. We only want it to be just slightly bubbling around the edges. It's very gently bubbling now. So I'm going to keep the temperature at about this. While we're waiting for the oil mixture to be ready, I'm going to prepare the beeswax.
Next, grate a generous tablespoon of beeswax,
Okay, looks like we're ready to strain our mixture now. So with a towel or a pot holder, handy to have a pot with a pouring spout.
Strain the mixture after it's gently boiled using cheesecloth.
About a tablespoon of beeswax chopped up here.
And then add the beeswax into the hot liquid.
It doesn't take long at all to melt. We're gonna just check and see how firm it's gonna be when it's hardened at room temperature. And see how it feels.
The final step after the beeswax is melted is to add 6 drops of lavender oil and pour into your choice of container. Let it set and voila, a handy salve.
So I'm ready. I'm ready for sunburns. I'm ready for insect bites. I'm ready for rashes and bruises.
As a precaution, always test on a small area of the forearm and leave the salve on for 24 hours. If any rash or sensitivity occurs, do not use.
And with your tie that you've tied at the base, you just simply roll it along your pants. By the pressure of your hand against the thigh, you'll keep that density that you want.
Coming soon on Vitality Gardening, we learn how to make an all-natural mosquito repellent.
But it'll smolder and keep the mosquitoes away. And also you try and use gloves sometimes because the sage is pretty bitter if you touch your lips to it afterwards. And then you just tie it off when you meet up with the end. And then in order for it to stick into the ground in your garden, you'll end up breaking off the weaker ones, weaker sticks, and have the stronger stick to be able to place into the ground.
Green tomatoes just take on a new characteristic because they're hardy.
Yeah.
They become hardy, so it's almost like, you know, you hear them saying beefsteak tomatoes and things like that. I consider these to be more of the meatier part of the tomato when they're like that.
And an organic chef all the way from Key West, Florida, drops by to cook up some of our produce fresh from the garden.
I'm used to seeing ginger, but you know, as it sits, I can sit here and squeeze this and start to actually get that juice to come out. You'll see it's like looks like a sponge and everything. So what you want to do, best thing with ginger is to kind of give it a couple squeezes.
Okay.
To get it kind of going. And
Oh, there one
yeah, that
goes
was a
now.
pretty good squeeze. But
right now, see, the little guys are all starting to come. As you can see, the little guys growing. So next,
And we'll learn more about greenhouses that anyone can make with some basic materials.
I flood the trench, I soak it down really good, and I shut the doors.
Oh,
In here, you walk, it's like a terrarium jungle. You walk in, your glasses will start running water.
really?
And then these cucumbers just go poof, 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 poof.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, you'll be picking 5-gallon, 5-gallon pailfuls every 2-3 days.
Really? Well, that's all we have time for today, so thanks for tuning in. If you have any suggestions or comments, please send us an email. So have a great week.